So everybody and their mothers know that the 3rd gen Ryzen CPUs are here, and that they are kind of awesome. In fact, unless you already own a good Intel motherboard, there's really no reason not to buy a Ryzen CPU. But which one should you pick? As always, the answer to this question will depend on your needs, which is why in this video we'll be going over the best picks for mid-range, high-end, and budget Ryzen CPUs. We'll also be taking a look at this generation's selection of APUs. So if you're thinking of buying a Ryzen CPU, stick around to find out which one is best for you. Normally we'd start with the best budget pick and work our way up, but this time we're kicking this off with the best mid-range CPU, since we assume this is the one most of you are actually interested in. And if you've been following the CPU scene at all recently, then you already know how incredible the new Ryzen 5 3600 is. It's been reviewed, it's been praised, it's been memed, and even the memes were positive. So that should tell you volumes about how good it is. Looking at the specs, we have a CPU operating at a base clock speed of 3.6 GHz with a max boost that can shift gears up to 4.2 GHz. And it's a 6-core processor with 12 logical cores. Those are some salivating specs right there. But most importantly, it has the new Zen 2 architecture. Now the ball has been firmly in AMD's court in terms of core counts ever since the release of the first Ryzen CPUs. And nothing has changed about that. But Intel has always had the better single-core performance, which in turn translated to better in-game performance, at least until Zen 2 came along. So to put the CPU's performance into perspective, the Ryzen 5 3600 performs on par with the Intel i9 9600K. It even outperforms it in some games. And if you're looking to compare it with the last gen Ryzen CPU, don't let the numbers fool you. This CPU outperforms the Ryzen 5 2600X by a large margin. In fact, it even outperforms the Ryzen 7 2700, at least as far as gaming is concerned. Now you might be wondering, why not the Ryzen 5 3600X instead? The 3600X is a marvelous CPU. It really is. It comes with a small factory overclock, bumping both the base and max boost clocks by 0.2 GHz to a maximum of 4.4 GHz without any manual overclocking. What's more, it even comes with a Wraith Spire cooler, which is a significant improvement over the Wraith Stealth Stock cooler that you get with the standard 3600. But you need to cough up $40 for just these two things: the slightly higher clock speed and the better cooler. It's not a horrible deal, but for $40 you could buy an aftermarket cooler that will put even the Wraith Prism to shame and manually overclock the 3600 past what you could get out of the 3600X with the Wraith Spire. So again, it's not like the 3600X is bad by any means. It's one of the best CPUs available, but pound for pound, it just can't beat the 3600 in terms of cost efficiency. Next up, let's look at the best high-end Ryzen CPU. Here we have a similar situation going on with the Ryzen 7 3700X and the Ryzen 7 3800X, except the price margin is way bigger, while the performance discrepancy is barely worthwhile. Both of these are 8-core CPUs with 12 threads, and they both come with the Wraith Prism cooler. The only difference is in the clock speeds. The Ryzen 7 3700X has a base clock speed of 3.6 GHz and a maximum boost of 4.4 GHz, while the Ryzen 7 3800X has a base clock speed of 3.9 GHz and a maximum boost of 4.5 GHz. Now, maybe we're wrong, but we'd argue that paying $70 for a slightly better base clock speed is really not worth it. So if you're looking to buy a 3rd gen Ryzen 7, then the 3700X is without a doubt the right choice. But you may remember us saying that the Ryzen 5 3600 does outperform the Ryzen 7 2700 when it comes to gaming. So don't let the Ryzen 5 label fool you. This mid-range CPU has the capacity to outdo yesteryear's high-end CPUs. If gaming is all you're interested in, you shouldn't write off the Ryzen 5 3600 lightly. It has the cost of a mid-range CPU, but we'd argue that it offers a genuinely high-end level of performance. Now, those of you building a budget gaming CPU shouldn't be disheartened by the fact that we still don't have any Zen 2 3rd gen Ryzen 3s. Rather, you should take advantage of the fact that all the previous gen CPUs are on huge discounts at the moment. If the 3600 is a high-end CPU for mid-range money, then the Ryzen 5 2600 is a mid-range CPU you can get on a budget right now. The 6-core 12-thread CPU with a base clock speed of 3.4 GHz and a maximum boost of 3.9 GHz is going for around $130 on Amazon. Of course, clock speeds aren't everything. You won't be getting the new Zen 2 architecture, but hey, we're talking about budget solutions here, and this certainly beats anything else $130 can buy. Add another $20 and you can get the 2600X, which will not only take the maximum boost clock to 4.2 GHz, but also net you a Wraith Spire cooler. Of course, whether or not $150 can be considered a budget price is up for debate. But regardless, you won't snag a better CPU for less money than either of these two picks. So if you're building a budget PC, we highly recommend making room for them if at all possible. But of course, not all budget PCs are interested in CPUs that can't even render frames on their own. $130 or not, you're still going to need a dedicated graphics card to make use of the Ryzen 5 2600. So if you're looking for a 2-in-1 combo that can serve as both a CPU and GPU, then you may just want to turn your attention to the new 3rd gen Ryzen APUs. The Ryzen 5 2400G and a Ryzen 3 2200G. Quick disclaimer, the Ryzen 5 2400G and the Ryzen 3 2200G APUs do not use the new Zen 2 architecture. It even says so right on the box. These APUs use the Zen Plus architecture, so for all intents and purposes, they're 2nd gen CPUs that snuck their way into 3rd gen. Now, is this actually bad? Well, so long as you know what you're building, we don't really think it's a big deal. Again, it does say Zen Plus right on the box, but we wanted to point this out just because it's very easy to assume that all 3rd gen CPUs would be built using the new Zen 2 architecture that's been hyped so much. So how do these APUs perform? Honestly, you won't find a better APU at the moment. They both received a clock speed bump, so the 3200G now has a maximum boost of 4 GHz, and the 3400G can go all the way up to 4.4 GHz. These specs are significantly higher from what we had last year. The Ryzen 5 3400G also comes with the Wraith Spire cooler, a much appreciated upgrade over the Wraith Stealth that the 2400G had. So if you're looking to make use of integrated graphics for gaming, the 3400G truly is your best bet. To give you a better feel for the performance difference, both 3rd gen and 2nd gen Ryzen 5 APUs could run Fortnite at 60 FPS. But you had to lower the resolution down to 720p to obtain this with the 2nd gen chips, whereas the 3rd gen chips can reach this level of performance in 1080p. Some games you'll have to run in 900p, some in 720p, but you will get better performances across the board than you would with last gen APUs. As for how the Ryzen 5 3400G compares relative to the Ryzen 3 22G, you shouldn't expect to see a large FPS difference. It'll change from game to game in which resolution and graphics settings you're playing on, but in certain games, the difference can be as small as 3 FPS, while in others, it can exceed 10. Still, if you have room for it in your budget, you definitely won't regret buying the 3400G for its superior processing power. If there's one thing you should take away from this video, it's that today is a good day to be an AMD fan. And that's not changing until Intel makes their own retort with the 10th gen Core series. At just $200, the Ryzen 5 3600 is offering better value than any CPU before it. To put it in the words of the internet's most beloved celebrity, it's breathtaking. But there are incredible deals to be had all across the price spectrum, so there's no need to worry if this is outside your budget. In any case, we hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, you can help us by liking it and subscribing to our channel. And if you think this is something that your friends would benefit from seeing, help them out by sharing this video. More videos like this one are on their way, so make sure to click on the bell icon if you don't want to miss any. Also, even though the title of this video only mentions CPUs, we've spent a lot of time talking about APUs without any further explanations as to what an APU actually is. So if that part confused you, we very much suggest watching the video linked in the description that tackles this very issue. Hardware nomenclature can be very daunting before it suddenly becomes exceedingly mundane. In the meantime, may your games be fun and your losses few. And as always, we'll see you next time on Gaming Scan.